and welcome to this episode of Authentic Achievements. Terry, welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Excited to be here, Kim.
So am I. I'm so excited about having you on the show. But let me start by introducing you more properly to our audience. So if I had to sum you up in a few words, it would be creative, lucky, energetic, fraud busting. Terry Rich is a successful CEO, president of 25 years, who loves to engage and entertain audiences across the globe. And he's given away over $1 billion and was the CEO of a zoo. I'm so looking forward to digging into that. He began his career in the early days of cable television, but Terry's best known for leading the team that cracked the largest lottery fraud in US history. So we've got giving away $1 billion, CEO of a zoo, largest lottery fraud, and it doesn't stop there. Before that, he started 4 successful entrepreneurial businesses and has had numerous national media appearances, including ABC, NBC, HBO, CBS 2020, CNN, CNBC, USA Today, and the New York Times. On a movie host and stars, and appeared as a panel guest in The Tonight Show. His production of a Fox sports show called Soccer Slam is currently a featured documentary on the Hearst streaming service Very Local. Terry is a disruptive innovator, entrepreneur with a drive for integrity and honesty. He's worked in the trenches, survived new business trends, and had success with generational changes. And he's also authored 2 books, The $80 billion Gamble and Dare to Dream, Dare to Act. Terry, I don't even know where to start. I mean, what an amazing
Can this guy hold a job should be the first question, huh?
I love it, but so much that you've packed in. So I'm going to start with, you tell us a little bit in your own words about your journey so far, please.
Sure. I grew up on a farm, if you could believe that. Went to school and I was going to be a math major. And about halfway through, someone said, hey, you can go over here and make a living talking. So I got into TV and radio and started in cable television before it was cool. On the weekends, I was a radio DJ. But during the week, we helped create some of the CNNs and ESPNs, got to work with the most entrepreneurial man in the world, Ted Turner. And did that for about 20 years. I thought I'd be there for life. You know how my dad said, you know, work hard. When you turn 62 and in the US, you get Social Security, you're going to be happy. And I realized at 40, when they cashed me out, that I had all the money I wanted to have. I had traveled the US extensively. So what's next? And I realized happiness happens on the way to success. That company was so fun and so entrepreneurial that I started my own company. And it basically was doing work for HBO, ESPN, a lot of the cable networks from the relationships that I built in the early days in cable television. But at age 50, midlife crisis. You know what that means? Yeah, I wanted to try something different. I got a call from a leader here in the state, and he said, hey, we're going to close. They're going to close the zoo. The city owns it, and it's not doing well. It's losing a lot of money. Would you be interested in running a zoo? And I thought, heck, I grew up on a farm. I suppose I could run a zoo. Cows can't be that much different from giraffes. So I ran a zoo for 4 or 5 years. We turned it around, went well. And then I got a call from the next governor who said, hey, the lottery needs a new CEO. The CEO is retiring. Would you be interested in running a lottery? And so that's where I took 10 years. And you might be able to tell I love marketing and promotion and talking. But in that, I had to become very serious because that's where we cracked the largest lottery fraud in U.S. history. But today, I'm retired and I'm traveling the world speaking on innovation and speaking on how to create a work ethic and prevent fraud internally within people's organizations.
Oh, wow. I love that. And it really demonstrates that actually skills are so diverse, aren't they? Very often we get ourselves trapped in the fact that we were in one industry, we're in one sector, and therefore that's what we know. And actually what you've demonstrated time and time again is that actually the skills that you bring around being able to engage people, lead people, to do marketing, to do strategy, to do that, getting under the nuts and bolts of a business is what you can take into any organization, irrelevant of the industry or the sector within which it operates. Would that be fair?
Oh, that's a great point. You know, people who have MBAs from Harvard or Oxford or wherever. I've got a BS in speech, a Bachelor in Science in Speech. But the trait I learned growing up on a farm was how to communicate and be friends with people, be genuine, do a good deed, do a good business, and how that really, really paid back over the years, and really willing to work hard. Raise your hand anytime and says, hey, someone, the toilet just broke, janitor's gone, who wants to fix it? I wanted to be the first. And that really paid off in years.
I love that. And it's so true. I mean, I was brought up with the same ethic. I cut my teeth as a hairdresser, and it was all about to understand people and make them feel good. If you find out what they want to do and make them feel good, funnily enough, they want to spend more time with you. And then that kind of resonates, doesn't it, in all elements of life. And I loved what you said at the start, which is happiness is what happens on the way to success. I think often we forget that and we make it the destination rather than enjoy every moment on the way, because each one of them gives us a chance for happiness. So how do you ensure that you have as much happiness as you can along the journey?
I think just always looking for something to do something just a little bit better, or a different way. Every time I go to the grocery store, even today, I think, okay, I made it in 3 minutes. Maybe I can make it in 2 minutes and 50 seconds next time. I just get really excited, and it kills me sometimes in being retired to look around and think, geez, why can't I get into AI now? That looks like a really fun area to learn something new. And that's the lifelong learning that you hear about throughout life. And then secondly, as I said with my family, the encouragement of others to help you as a team to make things successful.
Oh, I love that. And I was growing up, my grandparents gave me two great bits of advice. So my nan said, every day is a school day. And my granddad said, live each day as if it's your last and one day you'll be right. And somewhere between the two, I think they've kind of summed it up perfectly, which is keep learning, because when we're learning, we're growing. But also don't put off till tomorrow, because tomorrow's not promised. So make the most of every minute. What would you say has been the greatest lesson you've learned on your journey so far?
Well, I think with all the different kinds of success, I got bored. That's why I always change. I always wanted to try something new, look for something different, do things I've never done before, which is kind of like what some people do when they travel, when they retire. But I think the other lesson I learned is failure is the first step to success. It's better to have tried and failed than to succeed at doing nothing, because you'll learn something in that failure. And I learned that right out of the chute coming out of college. I was on camera, and I noticed I didn't have a 5 o'clock shadow. So I wrote to Gillette and told them how much I loved their razor. And I sat down at this old thing we used to call typewriters and sent out a letter thinking, I'm going to be on national television. I want to do a commercial for you. Hey, you can hire me because I didn't get this 5 o'clock shadow. For those 2 weeks, I got really excited, like people do when they play the lottery. Like, what if I win? I thought, what if I became famous and was on national television? 2 weeks to the day, I got the letter. Here's what it said. Dear Mr. Rich, we're glad you appreciate the razor. Unfortunately, you wrote the wrong company. Oh my God, I wrote the wrong company. I failed. But you know what? That spurred me on to do success and ultimately be on almost every national network and all of those. All because I failed in that, but realized how exciting that might be and how fun that might be to do something that would be on national television.
I love that. I'm currently rereading Think and Grow Rich, and he talks in there so many stories, just like that one, around having that moment where that thought suddenly becomes a burning desire, and you're like, oh my God, I really would like this. And then all of a sudden, you don't let failure stand in your way, do you? You go, well, I'll just try something different because the goal is great enough. And it sounds like that was kind of really part of your drive. Would that be fair?
Absolutely. And the other thing I realized, and it took me till I was in my 50s, that I went out to we call it Napa Valley, big wine country. And I thought that the wineries picked their own grapes on their own vines, and that's how they won the big awards. No, 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 no. They go out and look for the specific grapes. So they get a big bushel basket and get 100, 1,000 grapes of different varieties. How important diversity and having different thoughts when you're trying to create an innovative environment around the table, or how important that is, because they would find the right grape for that year that had the right flavor to make it. So I work really hard, and you can see I'm going to be bouncing all over the place. I'm always thinking about something different anytime. Well, you name a subject, I love to think about new ideas and how do we make it better, more successful. And that's not just in revenue, but also in expenses. A lot of people are just trying to control expenses. There are a lot of ways to be very creative to control expenses, but make it work. For example, I stopped at a hotel and I saw a bar of soap that was this big, and it had a hole in the middle and it said waste reducing exfoliating cleanser. And I realized that an accountant somewhere got really creative and thought, a bar of soap, when you're in the shower in a hotel, you only use it 1 or 2 nights. You only use about that much off the outside. Let's cut a hole in the middle, put that on the sink and put that in the tub or shower. And lo and behold, now we've cut our soap expenses by half by just 1 bar of soap rather than 2 in that. I thought, wow, that's really creative.
I love that. It's about looking at things from a different angle, isn't it? I remember many years ago working for a big bank over here, and they had employee suggestion scheme. So you could make suggestions, and somebody saved the organisation over £500,000 by coming up with a suggestion to have one bin between two desks instead of one bin each, because of the amount of time it saved in emptying them and also in the cost of replacing them as well. And you think just somebody looking at something differently, and it might seem like a really small thing, but can have such a massive impact, can't it, on an organization's bottom line?
It sure can. And you know, when people are hiring, often they'll say, well, we always need to hire from within. We shouldn't hire from without. But that's often where you get a lot of the new ideas. I found going into an organization like the zoo is losing $500,000, you know, almost £1,000,000 to say, you know, what could we do differently? And you get the no mans, you know, no, man, we can't do it unless we spend $2 million on a new tiger exhibit. And I said, well, what do we have that we could make the same amount of money without spending it at this point? And we thought about it and we thought, poop. I mean, all animals poop, don't they? So we did an exhibit called Scoop on Poop. So little kids could come in and laugh and giggle to see what elephant poop and tiger poop and all these different poops look like. And we we cash flowed this zoo within a year because everybody was they were telling their friends at school. And so if you look at it in a completely different way, then okay, the only way we can succeed is to have this, 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 and this. You're missing out. And especially if you're not thinking globally and having a very diverse group of minds brainstorming when you do it.
I love that. I love the whole, it reminds me of one of my little girl's favorite books, Pooh in the Zoo. When you told me that story when we chatted before, and I was like, it is because it's so fascinating to children, isn't it?
Yeah.
taking something that quite literally is waste and using it to fuel the success of the organization really does demonstrate the power of actually thinking outside the box. And to your point, inviting more people in to have those different ideas, isn't it? And saying,
and when you get one good idea, the second one comes, because then we had another employee come and said, you know what? I wonder if white-tailed deer in Iowa are really prevalent, and they're trying to figure out how to get rid. I mean, they're just all over the place. And they said, I wonder if tiger poop the tigers are predators and deer are prey. What if we sold the tiger poop in a box for $20, and then people could put it around their plants and flowers, and it'd be a natural repellent? So we did that. We made $20,000 that summer, all because we started with an idea and then just kept building upon it.
I love that, because I think creativity breeds creativity, doesn't it? To your point, once you start to open the box of ideas and come at it with that open-mindedness that there's no such thing as a silly idea. Because even if they end up coming out as being impractical, very often sharing that one triggers somebody else to think of the thing that will make it work.
Well, the encouragement is the big part of that. And that's what I found. You know, I grew up in a family that were very encouraging. If I messed up, they'd say, well, have you tried it this way? But that's why I talk about a two-step process. The first step is daring to dream. When you're doing brainstorming, you want to get together, spend only 15 minutes and have some rules. No judgment. And also the no mans can't take you down. Those are the people that say, no, man, we tried that, didn't work, because they've had some history. And so I think that having that first step is just getting that bushel basket and getting 100 good ideas in 15 minutes and then putting it aside. And then the lawyers, who are also excited about giving new ideas, so they get to give you some crazy ones. You put that aside, then the lawyers can take it, and then they can say, we're going to get sued there. Or the accountants can say, it's going to cost too much. But as a group, you look at the ones that go to the top, and now you've got group agreement that can make something very successful as the entire group, rather than one just person saying, hey, how about this? And everybody go, oh, no, that's an awful idea. I
love that, because it allows them to really be bought in as well at the start, because they were part of the ideation. So actually we know that, whoever owns the action is the one that's the most responsible for it. But if you were part of creating the action, we know that that's more powerful, because if I set up a goal and I achieve it, then that's great. If you give me a goal that I don't think is achievable, it's your goal, it's not my goal.
That's right.
I'll try and do everything I can to get there, because that's the type of person I am. Not everybody feels the same way, do they? Some people will immediately go, it can't be done.
That's why we talk about daring to dream, which is everybody has full license, say anything you want. No idea is a dumb idea. Then daring to act. And even as a leader, most CEOs I found, I deal with a lot of CEOs. We're a big insurance company, so a big insurance company, which sounds pretty boring to me, but they enjoy it. But, we all talk about how sometimes you feel, not the confidence when you pull up to your building and think, my gosh, I'm running a multi-million-dollar business here. And all of a sudden you're walking in. But when you walk in, every one of them says, I know I need to be confident, because when I'm confident, my employees will look, they'll listen. And my idea, I'm kind of wondering whether it works or not, gives them the power by seeing my confidence to say, hey, what if, and all of a sudden you've got everybody together, and often things will become successful that you wondered whether it ever could be, because you're adding the success and, more importantly, the knowledge and expertise from the lawyers and the accountants and the salespeople and the operations people to bring it all together.
I love that. It's so true, isn't it? I mean, I, like you, work with a lot of CEOs, and there is that fear. If you go in and you don't look like you fully believe, then it won't happen. Because people look to you as the leader to borrow the belief, to add it to their own belief and go, well, if you believe, then I believe as well, because they look for that respect, don't they? And that confidence that you're going to take them in the right direction, and therefore that they can follow. So if you were talking to leaders today, what would be the number one piece of advice you'd give them?
I think encouragement. Somebody fails, you don't punish them, you reward them. You look for things that they do and help them and coach them. You make sure they don't stumble, that they don't do anything too big. And that you really, within your own organization, the big organizations have research and development. I like to call it creativity areas, where you have a few people who are just nuts coming up with ideas, or the most creative. They aren't afraid to say anything, anytime, anywhere. And we all have a few of those. Some call them ankle biters. They're complaining. Well, let them get a group that just wants to get all the ideas out, and give them a percentage for research and development just to formulate the ideas, and then daring to dream, that is, and then bringing it up the chain to dare to act, to bring those new ideas to continue. Because, whoever thought in any city that taxi cabs would ever go away? If you think about your company, you think, hey, we're doing fine. Why do we need to change? Why do we need to do anything? If you go to most business schools, you'll see the entrepreneurial chart that starts off with innovation. Then it goes up, 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 up. You're trying to sell 100 people. That's what your research says. Okay, we've sold 100 people. What happens? You always level off and actually go down, because people die, people move away. So you need to innovate again to continue to grow. And that innovation, always have something in the pipeline, I think is a huge step for leaders to work, to think about, and let someone else enjoy doing that, so you can continue to run the operations and hear all the new ideas and try to see which sounds good, felt good, and as your team implement them.
I love that. It's so true. That constant innovation is needed, because as a society and as an environment, we're constantly evolving. So if we don't continue to innovate, we'll become irrelevant, won't we? Because, as you mentioned earlier, AI now is really fascinating.
Yeah.
We're going to look at, okay, what's that going to do for us next, and how do we lead in that environment? And actually, one of the things I'm seeing more and more of is that the requirement for a much higher emotional intelligence to be able to help people through the associated fear that comes with more things being automated, more things being digitalized, and what that might mean for them, because we're going to have to innovate in how we work, aren't we, to be able to continue to be successful and evolve.
Well, I'm a strong believer in encouragement, but hiring people who don't look like me, don't have my mental thoughts, all of those sort of things, because most entrepreneurs often aren't the best leaders, aren't the best, presidents, because they've seen a focus, they've executed one, but they don't continue to look outside. So I think having a really good group and diverse group around you is so important, especially in today's global society, because why just sell to your local province or city when you can sell to the world and make the kinds of money that we're talking about? The other thing you brought up, though, is when you hire people, you can hire the best person in the world, and you never know, but at some point they're going to stumble, and they're not going to stumble professionally. Sometimes it's personally. They're going to get divorced. They're going to have kids that got problems. Almost every CEO I know has a kid that, isn't quite making it yet. They got all these worries at home that go along with that. And then with that comes a temptation. And that's why I did the book that I figured out. I didn't realize as a CEO how important checks and balances and policies were. And that is to make sure you have those checks and balances, because when somebody gets desperate and they need the money, if you have the right checks and balances in, then they've got the devil on their shoulder saying, you better not be doing that. And they make it through that little bump, and that could be gambling, credit card problem, kids, divorce, as we said. So it's always amazing to me that people aren't always going to be as good as the day you hire them or think they are as the day they hire them, because they do run into problems. And if you recognize that and realize that, you'll be there to help them to get through that and continue to really add to your company.
Absolutely. I love that, because it's true, life happens to us as we go through. I remember the day before doing a big restructure for an organization, sat in front of the board, and they were like, "Are we ready, Kim?" And I was like, "As ready as we're ever going to be." And they all looked a bit horrified and were like, "What do you mean?" And I said, "What I mean is I've done everything I possibly can, but what I have no way of knowing is we're telling 1,800 people tomorrow that their job is at risk. I don't know what that piece of information, when added to the burden that they're carrying in their personal life, is going to do. And I'm never going to know that. So all I can do is be there for them, hold the space for however it's going to be, and then help them find a way through. Because that's what we're here to do as leaders. I said, you've got to recognize that people, to your point, can't be good all of the time, because sometimes the burden they're carrying externally is too great.
Absolutely. So, yeah. And I also, you're talking about firing people or whatever. I also found that if it's somebody that's a direct report to me, I always take in either the attorney or the HR person with me, and I say, it didn't work. This isn't as personal, this isn't personal, but it's a professional decision. And here's the attorney and the HR to talk to. And the reason you do that is because that employee is going to take anger out on their supervisor. They'll want to lash out. Why, how, whatever. But the other two can be that compassionate person, say, hey, look, this wasn't working. We're going to take care of you. Here's some things we are going to do, whether it's severance or whatever it is. And it just, like you say, just cushions that blow a little bit. But I think everyone realizes if something doesn't work. But again, the big step in all of that is letting them see how the company's doing, where we're doing well, where we're not. And it isn't a surprise when it actually happens. I mean, they'll still be a little surprised or shocked, but knowing that, hey, we've got to do what's best for everyone here, including you, because you're not happy here, and we aren't at this point with what we need to do. So those are the hardest things, but your compassion that you talked about is really, really important.
Yeah, and I think it's that part that it's around making sure that they don't leave harmed as a result of the fact that it's no longer working. And I think, to your point, if you do that with care, people know if it's not working. It's usually not working for them as much as it's not working for the organization. But what we don't do is have the courage to be transparent and vulnerable in both instances, which allows people to kind of keep their pride intact, because that's what people lash out about, isn't it? That sense that you're taking something from them.
And no doubt about that. Yeah, those are the hardest things to go through, and you love it when it's all positive and happy. And as we talked about, creating new ideas. And the most fun is when you have success, right, in a company. And that's really where they come back later on and say, I know you didn't like this or that, but I'm really excited that it worked. And success is really fun when it happens.
It is. Success is fun. And I love what you said earlier about having those checks and balances in place, giving people that safety net, because actually once you know those bits are done, then you're right. One, it gives you the devil on the shoulder, but also it allows you to almost have that confidence that you can't take that step. Someone's taking it away. Someone's making sure that you don't do anything wrong that's going to impact you as well. And I've worked in heavily regulated industries for a lot of years, and actually, if you put the right governance and infrastructure in place, it starts to make your life really easy because those checks and balances are there. So you've got that peace of mind, and therefore you can spot early if people need some help and then intervene before it becomes worse.
But that doesn't mean you can't be creative as you do that. Working for the state, I really sense it's better to have tried and failed than do nothing at all and succeed, because it felt like state employees wanted to do nothing at all and just get through the next boss if it was an appointed position. So, having ways for them to get creative and add to the success, you just see them light up. There's just a whole different feeling within a very state organization that has the principles, but principles are important.
No, absolutely. And I think you're right that you can be creative in how you do it. And actually, regulators don't expect you to never make a mistake. If you never make a mistake, it actually looks a little bit more worrying because
Well,
you're not taking risk.
You're not pushing the envelope. If you're not pushing the envelope, you're not contributing. I mean, you really want to find ways, and you shouldn't succeed 100% of the time. Or again, you're not pushing the envelope to really become more successful in what you want to do.
Absolutely. I could chat to you all day. It's always so much fun and so insightful. I'm very, very conscious also of your time. You've shared so much with us already, but if you had one overarching piece of advice for people to go out there and do that, dream big, and then take action, because I think often people do one or the other, but rarely do both. And therefore they dream, but they don't act, or they act, but they've not attached it to a well-defined dream. What would your piece of advice be?
I think the two steps, I'm going to go back to people who are just getting started. One is, we talked about it. If you want to do a new business, go work for someone and learn all the other aspects of the business. I mean, you may know specifically a product, but not how to do the accounting or the legal. When you're in an organization, you can absorb a lot of that. The other is raise your hand, volunteer. Talked about that. You'll be noticed, you'll be seen, but you'll be a hard worker by volunteering for anything and everything. The thing I did not learn that I'd love to pass along is how to relax. I'm a A-type. Kim, I sense you are too. That means we're go, 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 go. But how do you relax and really enjoy? Because when I try to relax, I'm always thinking about, well, I just saw that TV show. How could, I should have done that TV show, those kinds of things. And I would like to be able to do that without winding it down too far, because I think drive is very important. But finally, if you're not happy, and back to happiness happens on the way to success. If you're not happy today, you're not going to be happy tomorrow. If you keep saying, well, when I get this project done, I'm going to be happy. No, it's the old concept that when you go into a room, you don't say, I had to come to this meeting today, hear him on the phone. I have to do that. You change that to, I get to, and everything you do during the day, just use the word get, not have. And you'll start a positive attitude and looking forward. I get to go to the meeting today because I'm part of this organization. I'm part of the decision, and I'm proud of that. And all of a sudden, you'll feel a whole different sense of positivity than you would thinking, oh, geez, I get through this project, or I just have to do this. No, I get to do this project is a whole different feeling.
Oh, I love that. It's amazing, isn't it, how some of the most powerful words in our language come down to just 3 letters. So I get, and I can see, I get to do this, I get to do that. It totally changes your energy. A little bit like if you put yet at the end of when something hasn't happened for you. If you say, I'm not good at colouring, there's my little girl. I'm not good at colouring, mummy. I'm like, you're not good at colouring yet. But let's look at how much better you are today than yesterday, how much better you were yesterday than last week. How do you feel about it now? I'm like, mummy, I'm really getting good. Yes, you are. So I think sometimes it's the smallest changes that we can make that have the biggest impact, because if we change it in here, we change it out here. And I think you've demonstrated that so eloquently throughout your journey and throughout today's conversation, which is you've got to pick your mindset and make sure that you get the happiness from within. And if your soul doesn't sing in doing what you're doing, do something else that makes it sing. Would that be a fair summary?
I think it'd be a really fair summary.
Terry, it's been such a joy. I love the opportunity to chat with you. You've shared such invaluable insight for people as well, and clearly demonstrated that actually, if you've got a passion and a drive, you can make anything happen.
I'm in agreement. Kim, this has been fun. I've got a new friend and a friend across the pond.
Oh, absolutely. And I'm so looking forward to our next chat. So how can people get in touch with you?
It's pretty easy. Remember, I speak, terryspeaks.com. It is the website, Terry, Terry speaks.com. Has all the information, background, bio, how to get a hold of me. If you need a speech somewhere or a keynote, I love traveling the world and I love saying hello.
Amazing. We'll make sure all of that is in the show notes. And I can't go without just asking one thing. Tell us about the $1 billion that you gave away.
Because I, as a lottery director, got to give away prizes, and I gave away $1 billion in cash prizes over the 10 years that I worked at the lottery. which was a lot of fun. It wasn't my money. It was the first thing. How about that? But it still was very rewarding. And to see people who didn't have the money be really excited.
Oh, it must have been such a gift to be part of that and to see those things that really can change people's lives.
Absolutely. And with my last name of Rich, it kind of seemed appropriate.
I was going to say the fact that you ended up running the lottery. I mean, you were perfectly named for that role. So, Terry, it's been an absolute joy. Thank you, everybody, for watching and listening. I hope you've enjoyed the conversation with Terry as much as I have, and we'll make sure all of the ways to contact Terry are in the notes below. Until next time, thank you.